my previous session was either not recorded or I could not find where my recording is saved. But now, let me double check. Okay, I'm recording. All right. So last time I started the thought about this issue, and I talked about these components of this thought about man, life, universe, and then why these three issues. And then I wanted to address, before I proceed, one particular issue. Remember, I was saying some people would say, why do I need to think about man, life, and universe when I need, basically, it's my life. I have to worry about my life and to provide thoughts about my life and to think about my life. And then I mentioned in a brief, just in a brief, the reality of thinking about let me call them about the Aqidah issues, which is, as I said, it's man, life, and universe. And as the people may ask, I usually ask the question in return and say, well, what is your life? What is my life about? And I already mentioned there are two major things, and of course there is 2 plus 1. I will say 2 plus 1. The two are my needs, my actual vital, I will call them vital needs. And by vital means, a need, if not fulfilled, then you lose your life. That's what vital need means. And it's good always to define what is it that we are talking about. Vital needs, it's a need upon which life depends. So it's vital for the necessary for life to continue. Which life? Which is actually it's the life I care about. The life that each person, the ones who tells me, look, I worry about my life. What is your life? There are vital needs that each, about the life that each person cares about. The second are the, I will call them non-vital needs, but very important and urgent. And these have to do, now of course these, just to make sure, we call these the organic organ needs, organ related needs, such as eating, drinking, sleeping, and so on. And the other ones, the non-vital ones, these are the instinct related, which guarantee stability and tranquility, that makes people vulnerable and worried if they are not fulfilled, such as home, security, marriage, reproduction instead of saying breathing, etc., worshipping. These are needs which are very necessary for us in order to achieve tranquility. When I said the plus one means the thought process. Actually thought or thinking, or as we would term it, the mind or the mentality. So the mind, the thought, the thinking, the mentality is what allows you to take care of all of these issues, and then to convince yourself whether you are okay or you need to do some more. Now, if I think about these issues, what are they? In reality, so if I take these, for example, the vital needs, let me do here. What is this? If I think about it, this has two components, two major components here. One component has to do with the supply of the material, which can be used to satisfy the needs, which is food, water, irrigation, cultivating, producing. Of course, then you will do the all material in a nutshell, all material objects which can be used as is or after processing to satisfy my need. What are these? Actually, that's what we call the universe, whether you like it or not. It's the earth, the ground, the air in the atmosphere, and this air in the atmosphere and the water that rains from the clouds, and the clouds which are governed by winds that move the clouds from one location to another location. And it talks about the sun that allows the water to evaporate from seas, from the oceans, and to rise up so that it comes back as a rain in order to go into the ground. And once it's in the ground, it allows us to cultivate the land, to cultivate and to bring food and then to eat it. So that's basically, that's for the universe. And of course, when you talk about the sun and the earth, then you talk about this universal, all types of sustainability of this universe, and the availability of all of these resources. So here you are really talking about need to understand the source of our life. What's the source? Is it the universe? Is the universe, has it been there all the time or not? So this is very much needed. And of course, part of the, let me take this out and make it. Also, part of this, besides the fact that this universe is the life itself, which I worried about, the very life I am worried about, which I care about, which I don't want to lose. And if I get ill, I need to fix my illness. And if I suffer a serious accident or disease, I get very much worried. It's my life. So this life need to understand this life, because that's what I have just said. Everybody has just said, the life is my concern, the very life. So what is this life? And its sustainability and its continuation or termination. All of this that's what worries me. So my life now and universe actually are part of my core thinking. So it's not far-fetched from me if I say I need to think about going back here about life and universe, and then of course when I say a man or a human, okay, I need to remember that, look, my worry is about the life, which is mine, and universe, which is the supply origin of life needs. And all of this is related to my own life as a human. I worry about the life of animals and other species because they provide me with the power to continue to live. But here, as a human, I'm interested in all of this, the life and universe as a human. So that's the idea where then this is why we provide fundamental thought now about these issues which are of great importance about man, life, and universe. So that's why we provide these thoughts. So in other words, when we say, I need to begin, so this is our very famous statement about this issue. The fundamental thought about man, life, and the universe. It is, in fact, fundamental because it covers the basics of all my life as a human, and a fundamental thought is required to understand this very life that we care, that each human cares about. Now, the reason I'm bringing this argument here and this talk, because we don't want to sound philosophical, that we're really doing some philosophy. Let's provide a thought about man, life, and universe and see what we can do with this. That's not the issue. The issue is, as last time I was mentioning, when Allah Azza wa Jal in Surah Al-Waqi'ah, and I brought the surah here, where he reveals, نحن خلقناكم فلولا تصدقون. We are the ones who created you. أفرأيتم ما تمنون. Look at the semens that you produce. Who creates that? And then أفرأيتم الماء الذي تشربون. Look at the water that you drink. Look at the fire that you use for your energy. All of these issues, these are vital. That's, if you are really concerned about your energy, which you use to cook your food and to heat your bodies and your homes, then you have to think about the origin of this fire and its sustainability and continuation. If you are worried about the water, because without it you cannot there is I think there is some error in this copy paste. I will correct that. Look at the water that you drink, and who really brings it from the clouds, and look at the clouds. So actually think about the universe, think about your life, think about yourself as a human. This is fundamental. So this is fundamental thought. Now, having said that, now the next question to my mind, which is now this is I will call it a mental question here to provoke the thought. Where do I start? What is really important here? What thoughts I need? Do I need the thoughts about farming so that we know our how to perfect our food? Do we need to increase our knowledge and science about how to do genetic engineering of our bodies so that we can look better or we can live longer? What are the thoughts which are very essential? Now, in order to answer these questions, and that will bring us to the detailing of our thought, let's start one by one. Is at the end of the day, as I say, when I am thinking about my universe, my life, what is it that really matters to me? What are, I can ask the question, how do I live my life which I am concerned about? At the end of the day, what is really living? So I can start thinking about this issue. I find it's nothing but actually use available, and I will put available in brackets because that's how it should be, but the main resources from the universe to conduct or to perform an action required for my own living. Now, I'm not interested at this point the living of my children or my family or my tribe or my country. It's my life that matters. We start with this. And then what is this life? I'm using certain resources which are in the universe. I want to perform an action, and this action is required for this living. That's what is about. And also, now, once I start looking at this issue, there are many axioms, very simple things that that anyone can answer. For example, just simple examples. I'm hungry. Okay. So which means my life needs food to satisfy hunger. Okay, that's fine. So we all know that. That's nobody can dispute. Then if find an eatable things, which could be plenty or scarce. So that becomes the complexity here, because sometimes, like in many places in the world, when there is drought, you may get shortage of food. In places like in war times or with refugees, there might be some food somewhere, but it cannot reach you. So it becomes an issue. So the question comes as, Is food always available? What could impact the availability of food? And this question, it's not only today, we look at the question and many, we can think about the supply chain coming from China, which has lots of abundance of resources for food products. They process, they don't have food themselves. It's barely enough for them, but they do process and manufacture and then market to the rest of the world. Or maybe about the rain, whether it's going to rain and we'll have wheat and the bread or not. Whether we have a drought, so the cattle and the animals can vanish. So here, the question is, food always available? What could impact the availability of food? What is the real source of food? So eventually, if today the world is very much worried about the environment and about warming, and that some floods can take place, and then with the warming, drought will happen, less rain, and they are very much worried because there is a cause. They are looking for a cause that could create shortage of food, and they look at the consequences. So here, this leads to the question is, if there are certain reasons or causes that could impact the source. Now, when I say the source of food, in this case, I am referring to the universe, that's where the food is coming from. If there are certain reasons or causes that could impact the sources of food, then I can say how far I need to think, how far in terms of time, to be able to make a final conclusion about the source of my food. Am I going to go back 1 year before, 2 years, 5 years, to go back to the time when the people started doing all of this industrial revolution and putting the gases out in the air? That's a thought. I have to come to a conclusion. How far in the past, in history, in time, if you will. So how far in terms of time, this is important word, I need to go back. I need to go back 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. My thinking now, my thought process compels me, says you should, compels me to think as far as my mind decides that a cause could impact my current life. So the issue here is not 1 year or 2 years, or it's not 100 years when industrial revolution started. It's anything that could have an impact on my current life, no matter how far in time, how far back. Because if someone will tell me, look, just I'm giving hypothetical example, and this could be real after a few once while we are discussing. If I put this hypothetical example, which says, look, the gravity laws between the Earth, Moon, and the Sun, okay, were designed at the time of formation of the universe in a manner that gravity will be reversed, which means instead of you being attracted to Earth, to the ground, such that the rain will no longer be able to fall. So we'll never have some rain. That's at least one. And the air atmosphere, which provides oxygen and other gases, will be drawn upward and will not be available for our use. If I come to this conclusion and somebody brings this hypothetical example, this is very serious. So that's why the issue here is my mental process must answer the question, what is it that could impact the sustainability of my current life? And this is not far-fetched, by the way. When people started talking about warming, global warming, and environment changes, and then they are spending, or claiming at least, they are spending billions or even trillions of dollars in order to resolve the issue. That's not out of the blue. This is a real thought. And here, the real thought becomes, okay, I need to know exactly what could impact what had been impacted within this life at large, so that my life will be sustained or not. So that's my, so I could arrive at this question, and that's what we, whenever the question that we raise that leads us to the question is thinking about the universe from the perspective of the past, which means, where did it come from, if it came from anywhere? Or is it it has been there all the time? So that's, with our thinking process, I could arrive at the fundamental question. That's one fundamental question about the past. So this is one fundamental thinking question about the past of the universe. Now, not only, of course, the mental question here, the past of the universe. We said we need to provide thoughts about man, life, and universe, but this is one of them. And of course, when I talk about the past of the universe, by the same token, if I will take the same slide here and duplicate it, I can make the same issue about life, because the life that I am worried about, I just change everything here to my life. So this will be thinking about the life from the perspective of the past. Where did it come from? If it came from anywhere. And this is one fundamental thinking question about the past of the life, about my current life and what's before. Then the other question, which we need to answer, to think about, is the mental question, is the future. Of life and universe. Where is it going? And here, of course, it's more important the issue of life. But this question, although sometimes when we say, let me repeat this statement, which we have it very frequent, man, the concepts about life and what was before and what's after. You have seen this before. Need concepts about current life. When we say about current life, we talk about hayat dunya, about current life, what preceded, and what comes after. And we quite often ask the question, where does this come from? Why do I need to do that? Well, in a nutshell, and it doesn't take a brainer to understand, okay, let's take example, very simple example, for which has to do with my organic needs. Food is available. Okay, I am hungry, which is all right. Therefore, I do eat to satisfy hunger. Simple. Now here, when I say available, so forget about the previous question which I had. We already made that potential questions, but now I want to use that. And I guarantee the availability. I do have plenty. I have my fridge, my money I can buy, and I'm not going to worry about where food comes from. But now I'll worry about what could happen to me, which is me, it means my life, after consuming the food. And there are many, many examples. What if the food is poisoned? Which means will lose your life after eating. What if the food is stolen from somewhere? Could lose my freedom after a while. If I get caught, let's say I stole some money from somewhere and I bought some food, and then what if I get caught? Then my freedom, which is part of my survival, my other instinct, is going to be impacted. Here I would say the instinct of survival not the vital life, just my survival, which requires me to be free and to practice my life. Instinct of my survival can be impacted, which is something to worry about. Other examples of which happens quite often these days, which has to do with not the food now. Let's bring this very serious example about rape. Someone commits a rape crime, which satisfies one part of the instinct, which has to do with the joy. What if the person later, now this is later, after the fact, gets persecuted and possibly lose the life, if this was in a place which is very serious, or the freedom. Freedom means the ability to function as a human being. So, and you could see many examples. You talk about investments. Today, this is very, especially in stock markets, talking about people who invest in stock markets. What if the stock market collapses as it did in 2008, 2009? So that's you lose lots of your belongings. So lose lots of wealth and might become poor, and therefore not able to even satisfy your basic needs. So this is, all these examples show the aftermath of the act, I will call it, or the deed. Okay, the aftermath of the act or the deed, which is used to fulfill life-related needs, can be as significant as the act of fulfilling the need itself. But then the question becomes, if so, how far in the future you need to consider? For example, let me go back to this issue of rape and theft. Maybe you will say, maybe crimes are dropped, if not pursued, within, let's say, 15 years. For example, just example. So if this is the case, then you will say, I have to worry about my future, about my life for the next 15 years, so I don't get persecuted for a crime or an act that I have done today. In case of the food, the poison, we'll say, well, poison should result or should show its impact within 48 hours. So within 48 hours, if I keep myself very cautious, and after 48 hours, I am safe, then I will be happy. I will be happy. I don't have to worry anymore. But within the 48 hours, I will be vulnerable. I will be worried. I will be very much concerned about what's going to happen. But now, if you come to the, say, then the impact of the act can last more than 15 years. Say it could happen in 50 years. So it can haunt you or haunt your belongings and your children, which is part of your life, for 50 years. Then that is, you need to make sure that you are covered all of this time, because after all, the reason that you ate or stole or invested or raped or did something unusual is because you want to satisfy your life. But if you find that your very life that you were worried about is going to be damaged because of this act, and if you look in the future, you say within 2 days it will impact, within 1 year it will be a problem, within 15 years, the mind says, I need to be satisfied, because if my mind keeps worried about it and it comes back to my mind, that's instability of the mind. So then you can go even further. Like once you are, let's say if you are a Muslim, or you have been with a religion that believes in the hereafter, says, what if the act of today will follow you and impact you even after you die? So that becomes a compelling question. So these examples, I am using these examples wait, okay, the same thing here. Okay. So here means that the thinking process about life, and what is life now in this case, about human life, let's call it, which involves the materials that the materials used in the process of life, the acts, and of course the living organ itself, which is the very life, the living organ in within my life. Okay, the thinking process must take into consideration 3 aspects. One is the life process itself, which is nothing but the life process itself is nothing but performing acts in order to satisfy and fulfill the vital and the non-vital needs of my life. And the preceding events, issues, causes, whatever, anything preceding that could impact the current life. And the future also, events, issues, acts that could have an effect on my life. So that's where the issues here, when we talk about, when we say that we need consider the hence the thought about life, current, past, future, universe, current, past, future, and of course man, because man now, which is human actually, I need to be careful here, and the human, which is the human life in particular, that's what we are interested in, the human, current, past, and the future. And in between, the correlations between all these three main issues. So that's here is the main issue before actually I start talking proofs, mental thinking. Is the universe eternal or not eternal? Is it created or not created? What's going to happen? I had to set up the stage that this very thought about these issues about man, life, and universe, and the interrelations or correlations between all these issues about what happened in the past and what's happening today, and what will happen in the future. All of these issues need to be taken into consideration. And that's the very thought, the fundamental way of approaching our thinking. So I cannot jump simply and say, come on, let's discuss the issue whether the world or universe is created or not. Come on, let's have a discussion. Let's have a thinking class on this issue. That's not proper. What proper is the way Allah Azza wa Jal, He looked at these issues and He told us, look at the water that you drink. Look at the water what they drink. What if we make this water unavailable to you simply by making it evaporate all the way? Or what if someone, in this case Allah Azza wa Jal, makes this water absolutely with different chemical structure, so it was unusable at all? When he said لَجَعَلْنَاهُ أُجَاجًا, ujaj means it becomes by nature, by default, salty. It's not that by adding salt to it, because some people would say, well, we know that the seawater is salty, but we can purify it. Here Allah Azza wa Jal is talking about different way of making the structure of the water itself is drinkable? What if the universe that you are relying on with this all structure of the universe, with the stars, with the planets, what all of this is demolished? And there is an ayah in the Quran where it says, لا أقسم بمواقع النجوم. I'm not going to swear with the positions of the stars, because we know today that those positions are very important for the well-being and the structure of the universe as we know it. The universe that provides light that to penetrate our the earth, and to provide the earth with night and day, to provide the ability for gravity to allow people to move and to work and to jump and to play, rather than just if you move out of the ground, then you fly away to the other universe. All of this is very well structured. What if we take this out? What if we, in another place, what if we explode the seas? The sea that should be used in the first place to put off fires. What if we bring fire from the seas? What's going to happen? So all of these questions are simply telling us this is why you should think about the origin of the universe and who stands behind it. Otherwise, why should I worry about cases that may not be related to my life? Big deal, even if all the seas are going to explode and evaporate. If these seas are not vital for my life, they are not the source of my seafood, they are not the source of the water that evaporates and goes up to the clouds and come back as a rain. If all of this is, and if it's not the source of the winds that allow things, the pollination of plants to happen so that we can eat, if that has no impact on this and on my life, why should I care? Why should I worry? And that's exactly what the Quranic methodology is about. Okay, now let me, I want to stop right here before I proceed for the next issue. Is let's look at this about this life, universe, and the human from the current, past, and the future perspective, and see how far we can go in the past to find the origin and the power over this universe, how far in the future we should go in order to be satisfied and not to be vulnerable. That will be my next class. But now let me open the floor and for discussions and for questions, answers. So I will take these out now from here. And I will call them mental fundamental questions. And I will remove this from here. And this will be for my next class. Okay. Any questions? First, can you guys hear me, or maybe I have been talking to myself all the way through?
We can hear, we can.
Okay, I could see some mics moving. Do I still have Samir here? Yeah.
Yes.
Samir, if you want to add something, yeah, go ahead. I can see your mic is on and muted.
Yes. Okay,
if you want to make some comments before questions come from the floor, go ahead. I can't hear you though. I know you are talking. I can't hear you.
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
Oh, now I can hear you because my voice was silent. Okay. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Just as you were mentioning before you hit the concept of political thinking, which is in our terminology, it's an enlightened thinking process, which is mimics the Aqidah thinking, because the Aqidah needs to be that kind of process. So what Dr. Mohammad, what you described as a process, okay, for figuring out where the origin of man, universe, and life, and thinking about the F, all the F's question that you have put, is actually thinking about this whole entirety, the process in entirety. What was before, what is current, what's the future. It's the same scenario with the existence. And the same scenario comes to when you come to explain the political thinking. You need to know the past before you make a judgment on the future. You need to understand the past, you need to understand the present, and you need to understand the future.
And
so
the relations between them.
And the relation between them, yes. And that actually makes the connecting point. You draw the line between all these three to make a proper judgment.
Yes.
Just to tie this session to the previous earlier sessions, Dr. Mohammad, that you mentioned earlier, is that, and we talked about it, that thinking is a tool to make a judgment at the end. This judgment could be about our existence, or about a political situation, or about anything else that we endure. And for this judgment to be, especially with the Aqidah and the existence, it has to be with utmost certainty. And I say utmost certainty. When it comes to Aqidah, it has to be 100% certain, but other than Aqidah, it doesn't have to. You still have to follow that process where you understand the past, the present, and the future, and then you connect all the dots. So yes. I think, I was trying just to simplify what you just described in those simple terms, is that there is a process, and that process starts from the previous information, or what has been in the past, or what was there, and what is current, and what are happening in the future, and then we connect all the dots. Your mental capacity would be with the previous information, connecting all the dots and making the proper judgment.
Correct.
Enlightened thinking. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just a simplicity. Okay. Hopefully that will open the floor.
Sure. Thanks, Samir. As usual, you open the floor and you complicate issues for me.
Okay.
Okay. Any comments from the ground? Question?
Talha, you could say they need to ask before you start asking. Okay, so they could be the asked. So yeah. You can pose the question, let them answer.
Sure.
I've sent a question in the chat.
In the chat, usually I rarely see the chat while I am talking, but since you did tell me, let me see. Okay, when we bring Muslims to these questions, they simply say that they already have answers to all these. They already know that how are they supposed to fulfill their instincts and organic needs, how to tackle them. Well, it's a very interesting question. If you noticed here, when we started discussing, we actually did not mention specifically whether it's for a Muslim or a non-Muslim. These are fundamental issues that go beyond the deed itself. Yes, true. I am a Muslim, I read the Quran, I believe in it, so I do pray. So that's my act. The act is the pray. I eat the food which is allowed. That's my act. Now, the issue is this act which I am interested in, and I love to continue doing it. Where did it originate, or whether it has in the past something had happened that forces me or puts me in a position where I should do it this way. What did happen? Why? Another question, why I have to do that? Well, the easy answer that comes, oh, because the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned that in a hadith or in the Quran. Then I asked the question, where did this Quran originate? Where did this audit originated from Allah Azza wa Jal? How did it originate from Allah Azza wa Jal? Now, and if I start asking the people even who believe in this issue, they will come to a conclusion that I simply believe. I simply believe. And if you face me or him or her, but when you do, let's say when you go to work at 8 o'clock and you do your job regularly, you don't simply say that's how it is. You'll have to come to say, I signed a contract with a certain salary maybe 2 years ago in order to fulfill this work so I can receive a salary. So there is something had happened which impacts the way you act now, which was signing a contract. And before signing a contract, you went to a school, to university, and you got a degree so that you are able to sign a contract. And before you did go to the university, you had to get some score in your high school to be able to go to medical school or pharmaceutical or engineer or IT or management or whatever. So all of these sequences do impact the way that you are doing it now. And you take it for granted because you already know exactly what happened. In other words, the thought process had to be invoked in my mind or your mind or the mind of the person with examples which are very simple and reliable examples, which everybody can subscribe to. Because I'm pretty sure no one in his right mind will say, simply I go to work because I like going to work or because this is how it is. That's what I believe. Something must have happened before, which allows you or forces you actually to do the 8 hours a day for 5 consecutive days and to be always on time, just like in your prayers and in your fasting and in your other things. So in one area, you find yourself very much convinced mentally and you have the information that supports your thought. But when it comes to the deen now, and that's where I become a bit not necessarily furious, but serious, that look, in the issue of your deen, it is even much more serious than the issue of working on a daily basis. If that one you already know the exact sequence, what had happened and how it could have happened, or how it could have not happened this way, so you would have been in a different place. All of this is important. And then, of course, you would say, what if you decide to skip the work and to play sick 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and then eventually they will find that you were actually not sick, but you were visiting your friends in Turkey or in India or in Europe somewhere instead of going to work. That's going to be, you have to lose the job that you are interested in today, and you gives you your ability to live at least. That's natural. And then when it comes to skipping or lying or not fulfilling the duties which had to do with the aqidah, with this faith that you are talking about, and you are not taking it as seriously, it means you are not really seeing with your brain, with your mind, the exact consequences and how this consequence is going to impact your current life, the way you are doing your job now, your activities now. So the idea here is, people may say, but I have to bring it up to them in a manner, the way the Quran did, is to provoke this very thought. And that's, by the way, the ayat that came in the Quran about the issues of provoking the thought to think about what happened in the past and how it's going to impact you in the future. These were not for the kuffar. These were for both the kuffar and the ones who think they believe as well.
Abdul Hamam, if I may add in
Yeah, go
something
ahead.
from a different side. Okay, I think what I believe Sister Libna is could also have looked at is from practical perspective. When you talk to Muslims, especially Muslims in the Muslim world, and if you address the issue of Aqidah and the thinking about it, they don't as much care about it. And the reason why they don't care for these questions here, because we have all the answers, it's not because they have really worked their mind into it. The majority of the Muslim Ummah have done what they call simple thinking and also the acceptance, because our brain and our mind, our process of thinking can sometimes accept facts without evidences or without a thought process, a major thought process. So they have committed themselves to the deen and to the aqidah, but with not much of thought. And that is makes them a Muslim. Okay, they are not, so we cannot tell them, no, you are not a Muslim if you do this way. But that is not the proper way that Allah wanted us to do, because what Dr. Malkawi was saying, that all the ayat in the Quran, actually, أَفَلَا يَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ أَفَلَا يَعْقِلُونَ, it's all posing the questions and posing the, and challenging, and actually it ordered that people to think. Now, if people don't think and still believe, they're still Muslims, okay? But there is nothing wrong with that, except that it is weak. It does not, sometimes it stand to the challenge, and it actually it trains people to what the Muslim Ummah now in its whole life. It trains people to accept things. So now people accept the fact that oppression is taking place, and I don't have to do anything about it because I don't have to think about it. Because if I think about what's happening in Palestine or in Kashmir or in this, it's too difficult. So I'll accept the facts and please myself with the saying that this is from Allah, and that's it. Okay. So if you trained yourself and the society and the ummah to start accepting status quo as is, it becomes a habit, and that's very dangerous, especially in the political life. So Allah came and challenged us in the essence of Aqidah, which is the most basic thing. So we can carry this process of Aqidah into our life, which is in the political thinking or other thinking. So yes, it is a challenge to make people think with enlightenment. It is not easy because the majority of people are simple thinkers.
Right. Besides, it is important, as I mentioned, number one, in the Quran, and you mentioned that it's in many places, it provokes the Muslims and the believers in particular. In one place, it did praise the mu'mineen by saying الذين يتفكرون ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا. It was in the perspective of praising the believers, that they continuously think about the creation of the universe, the skies and the earth, and coming to conclusions of what is going to happen beyond this thought. ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا. This could not have been created for no reason. This has an impact. سبحانك فقنا عذاب النار. And therefore we direct ourselves to avoid the nar, the Jahannam that could be awaiting. So in other words, we can approach this from many perspectives. Another perspective is about the progress, innovation. We say, look, 1.5 billion people or more, they are believing just like everybody else and look what the status is. Where is the progress of the ummah? Where is the progress of the people? Where is the lifestyle that is worthy of a human that Allah Azza wa Jal created? So, so all of these issues, we can bring them up, and this is part of our thought process. That's why we are making this thinking process in a more elaborate manner and sometimes very sequential, so we can achieve something with it.
Can you please check the chat?
Yeah, I'm trying. Okay, so now Sophia has a question. In short, we can say that even before thinking about whether there is a creator, first we will have to just excuse me, please. Okay, we have to think. First, we will have to think about ourselves, how we function, how we live. Exactly, that's the fundamental. In fact, that's which you have just mentioned, that nobody can argue well. I'm thinking, when I think about the creator and about the creation, about the future, it's really, I'm thinking about my own life. That's where the beginnings start, because I care about my life, and it is my very life which allows me, which forces me to eat when I am hungry, to go to a doctor when I am sick. This is the very life. Thinking about it leads me definitely, without any doubt, to thinking about the creator and the hereafter. So that's certainly. And then they follow up with a question, and is it necessary for that every born Muslim acquires enlightened thinking about the creator, or it is sufficient that he has been told? Well, the second part of the question is really, it's a matter of a matter of hukum shari, besides its aqidah. But from a hukum perspective, it is not allowed, or what we say, it is a wajib, it's a fard, to have enlightened thought about the aqidah. In other words, it's not allowed to imitate, to simply, I am a Muslim because I was born in a Muslim family and I am happy. That's not sufficient. That's not allowed. This is there are many ayat in the Quran that mentions that this is not acceptable in Islam. It's not either acceptable to have our faith based on our emotions and feelings, simply because I feel that there is a creator who is guiding me. I have a feeling. But what if your feeling changes? What's going to happen? So that's not allowed.
But just to be careful, that these are still Muslims, but they're committing a sin by not having, by
that's why I said
blindly.
it's a matter of hukum shari, not
Yes, yeah. I just want to clarify it.
Yeah.
I understand you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is this question clear for the?
Yes, Jazakallah khair. It's clear.
Okay. And this is what we call taqleed, imitation. It's allowed in ahkam. Ahkam, it's allowed. I can make imitation, say, I'm not going to think about all ayats and the hadith which are related to the issue of what to do if I am ill and I cannot fast in Ramadan. I'll just say, what did Imam Shafi'i say about it? It's sufficient for me. I can do that. But if someone wants to bring me the issue of belief in the properties of jinn, and meaning that jinn can impact the life of the people and they can interfere, and to say, well, I've read this in a book written by, let's say, Imam Sarkhasi, for example, or Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah. I read some. That's not enough. That's not good enough. Because this is an issue of Iman and Aqidah, which cannot be imitated, I cannot follow it simply because somebody had said it. I have to be convinced mentally, and this has to go through the whole process of thinking. I am responsible, in this case, I am responsible for my own thought and belief. No one else is responsible. No, I cannot hide behind a scholar told me, like many cases. I give example for people who invest in stock market. So how would I know that this is allowed or not allowed? I just found a fatwa and I use it, whether it's halal or haram. I just found a fatwa. And that fatwa probably can save you because I am allowed to do that imitation. But in Aqidah and issues that have to do with Iman, like Allah, like Al-Malaika, like Jannah, Jahannam, angels, Jinn, Al-Ruh, soul, all of these are issues of Aqidah, and I cannot hide behind a fatwa. And that's very important to understand so that people can really get their thoughts in their mind, in their brains, and start thinking about what they believe in. Okay, any more questions, more comments? If not, we can close this session, and we will next time dig deep into the nitty-gritty issues of this thought. All of these thoughts so far today and the previous lecture are really introduction to this topic, and I did not want to complete it all in one session because it's important. It's important to put all of these issues in the background before we dig deep about the issues of the proofs, the real mental thought about the proofs and evidences, if you will.
Dr. Sir, please, would you please upload the lectures on YouTube?
Yes, I will upload this lecture to Moodle, to the platform, and I will upload the video. For some reason, I could not find my last session recording. I will look for it. I thought I did it on YouTube, but it's not there.
Because
And
it's
then,
difficult to listen on Moodle because I don't know, there are some technical problems or something else. I faced a problem if I try to listen to it again. It's much simpler on YouTube.
Okay, so I will put it on YouTube. Yeah, all of them are on YouTube anyway, yes. Inshallah.
Jazakallah khair.
Okay. Okay, Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters, and I will see you next week, inshallah.
Alaikum salam.
Wa alaikum salam, Sheikh.
Salam.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.